Hello and welcome to Simonheals. My name is Simon. I am delighted to be joined by Melissa today. If you've been following my channel for a little while, you've probably met Melissa before with me. I think this is about the third conversation that we will have recorded. And each time we do, we have these, just really wonderful conversations. I've found that at points along our journeys, our attention on certain topics seems to kind of intersect at exactly the same time, and then we kind of get together and discuss, and that's exactly where we're at today. And if you listen to Melissa on her YouTube channel, which I seriously recommend that you do if you haven't been doing that already, we'll leave you a link for her channel below. Recently, Melissa posted a video sharing her experience of how she manifested the sale of her home and finding her perfect new home in this just really miraculous way. And if you have seen the video, then the energy that came through that and her kind of excitement and the vibration, it was hardly surprising, Mel, that you did. You were obviously just so much in the flow. But yeah, so yeah, I thought if we could kind of pick up where you were at with that, and you know, the whole subject of manifestation, law of attraction, and all these other words that are used is something very close to my heart. So I got a sense that we could have a good conversation around this. So yeah, yes. Good to see you.
Yes, you too. Thank you, Simon. Yeah, this is at our fingertips now, this manifestation energy, because the veil is so thin, and we've all been preparing ourselves unbeknownst to us, perhaps at a conscious level, for these times. And all of that doubt of the possibilities of my power and my capacity. I think the negativity and the attempts to take so much away from us has been met equally by our standing in, hang on a minute, that is not the way. That's not what I came here to do. And I can see clearly what you're up to, has been met just as equally by us remembering not only how powerful we are, but how much access we have to divine flow and alignment. But yet the world will have told us from day one that we're the opposite of that, right? That's become really, really clear to me.
And I mean, I guess we could suggest that what we have been through is a manifestation. We had created it, but we created something that was so hideous and so negatively polarized, and in doing that, it's also woken us up to that ability we have to manifest in much more kind of like positive ways.
True. We've been so far steered off path that with any degree of sensitivity, we've started to go, why do I feel crap? Why am I getting, for me, it was the breast cancer. Why am I getting breast cancer? I'm meant to be here doing great things and being a lighthouse and, sharing my love across the world. Why that? So yeah, it's like it had to be that extreme opposite for us to start to inquire, what does really matter to me? What makes me happy? And it's like this reconnection to that energy became possible for so many of us because we were experiencing its opposite. And that's the perfect example of the duality that exists, and the more you learn about duality, the more you can see it in every moment almost going on. So I got pretty excited when it came to this whole, clearly this stranglehold on humanity in the last couple of years, I thought, well, this is really interesting because I know that I can be the opposite of that. I know that this is actually going to be an opportunity and a wake-up call. And, you know, in that period of time, I ended a 21-year marriage, which 2 years before that, I never imagined I would have the guts or the means to do. So it's like the pressure cooker of this last few years has given us an option to really tap into our superpowers and claim life by the horns, or to just buckle and fold under the pressure of, you know, what we're trying to be convinced that we are, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I can see people at both ends of that spectrum. You know, within you know, the circles of people that I meet, and I guess I certainly feel a sense of duty in doing whatever I can to communicate this to people, particularly those that have still not as yet woken up to really embracing the fact that they are the creators of their reality, even if the reality they're experiencing at the moment is not a good place, you know. And in a way, that's what brought me to being here, doing what I'm doing, and opening this healing center up over here in Thailand, because it was my healing that that really just kind of motivated me when I realized that the disease that I was experiencing and the challenges, I can't get my words together, but the fact that my life was not in a good place 15 plus years ago, and you know, I did everything I was told that I needed to do to get it back into shape, and I took all the pills and everything else, and nothing was working, you know. And eventually I had to take matters into my own hand. Something inside of me, thank God, literally thank God, something inside of me, my higher self, my soul, whatever we want to call that, something inside of me knew that you know, that I could find a way, and I did. And once I did that, I was like, right, I need to share this. And that's what really brought me here to be doing this. And so that's very much now my mission and my purpose, you know. And still we have people that come that are very sick, that are very unhappy, and always that turning point in the healing process is the taking responsibility for being at that place, you know.
But in order for that to happen, people have to be prepared to recognize that their things could be better, and own it and acknowledge it. And that can take some people a long time, and others will never get there. And so it feels like we hold space for people that are kind of ready to take that step and open a container for them. You know, I made a couple of videos this morning, and one of them was about the content that I put out on my YouTube channel, which is turned into this often very practical stuff these days of here, follow this with me, like let's do this together. And it's like, when you get to this point, Simon, where your eyes become clearer and your ears are more open, and I love this word, it behooves you to then turn that into service. And that can be terrifying, and that can be the next layer of visibility or witch wounds or whatever it is that you then get to face. But it's just like manifestation. It's all about the energy that you are emitting. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you say to people in you know, that come to your center, or I say to my clients, it's the way they get to feel in our presence. And that's exactly what you can crystallize with manifestation, because it's all about the feeling of it and surrendering to it rolling out in exactly the way it's meant to under your loving direction. And that's why I put that video out, because soon as I started to feel myself step into this arena of getting divorced, selling a home, and dealing with the legacy of 2021 and the world all happening at the same time, I felt panic. And this is the only way we can know when something needs to change, and it doesn't feel right in your body. And for all the people who aren't prepared to feel their body, prepared to feel their feelings, they will miss this intel, and they will keep, burying this disease and unhappiness for as long as it takes. But as soon as I woke up in 2022 and I was like, okay, it's been 2 years. I'm ready to sell this house now. The cocoon that I needed through 2021, that served its purpose. I was able to be in my little hidey hole. I'm ready to say goodbye to this now. But then immediately zushed in this, oh, it's so hard to get divorced. Oh, it's so hard to sell a house. I'm single. How am I going to do that? I've never done this before. I've always done it in cahoots with my husband. All that stuff was given space to come to the surface. And very quickly I arrested it, because it's like, I get to rewrite a timeline, and we hear that phrase all of the time now. So this was a lived example of flip this shit over. And this inversion is a concept that we're very aware of. Everything's been inverted so that we think the opposite, so that we've denied what is our right and our power. So it's like, okay, no, this is going to be playful. This is going to be fun. This is going to be easy. And don't fuck with me. Like, don't send me anything that takes me off that path, because, and I have this conversation all the time with the universe, I'll do the work. I'll show up. You've watched me for the last 20 years. So let's make this fun. So I had a couple of conversations, and this is part of co-creation. We're not meant to do any of this human thing alone. I had some very poignant conversations with 2 or 3 friends, and they dropped little seeds in my mind as well. So what I knew I needed to do in order to manifest the next thing was I needed to pour a lot of love into honoring the old. And this, I think, sometimes is a missing link for people. They just turn to what they want and start to, affirmations and vision boards, and they've kind of not closed the door on the past or tied the ribbons around it or honored it. So as I shared in the video, I got roses from the farmer's market, which I rarely get flowers from the farmer's market, and there happened to be 20. And the guidance was, sit at your altar, 20 different blooms. That's 20 versions of you that you're going to sit in ceremony, and you're going to honor 20 moments in time in this house. That was one example. Then it was about the crystals that you've got. We've all got 20 or 30 crystals. Some of them need to stay here. Get outside and plant them in the land and put them down into the earth, and create a sense of protection and safety as you transit through this experience. So they were just 2 examples of the preparatory groundwork that I knew I had to lay, because we can't leave an energetic container unattended to. The energy will continue to leak out of the past until we make it clear that that is over, and we do that in reverence, not in panic or fear, but in absolute reverence. And that involved honoring my marriage in a way that it was appropriate, and this particular home as well, which has been the family home for 12 years. So that was the very start of the experience. I don't know if you want to comment on that or reflect on that.
Yeah, it just brought something to mind that comes up quite a lot in healing sessions that I do with clients, where they're really struggling around relationship and to form new relationships in their life. And this often comes up in a Theta Healing session. So they've invariably been married before, and what they do not do energetically is actually end that relationship properly, energetically, so they can't begin the new relationship. Okay, they might have a piece of paper from a lawyer, but if you think, like when we get married, there will be witnesses there will be ceremony and celebration, but whoever does the same to end the marriage, to have some kind of ceremony or ritual. So what you were doing was in your own way, using ritual to bring something to an end. And that is very, very important. To allow the new then to manifest. It can't manifest if the energy of the old is still there. Whatever it is, we're just using I'm using relationship as an example because that came up, you know. So absolutely,
That reminds me, to go on the journey of ending my marriage, we employed a very skilled practitioner, and I highly recommend this for couples that if you want to give it your all, 100%. She was a sex and intimacy coach, and on the very last session of the pack of 10 or 6, unbeknownst to Julia, we were going to announce that we decided to separate, which is not the ideal success outcome that this practitioner was thinking. She was assuming, like I was, that this time together with Melissa and her husband would bring them back to resolution. Right. But between sessions, we'd hit the knowing that we were done. And in that last session, we love bombed Julia with actually, before we start, we just need to tell you something. We've decided to separate. Yeah. And she had to pivot, and she, out of nowhere, Simon, this is the skill of practitioners that you have to find for yourself. Yeah. She completely honored our marriage for an hour and a half with no prep, but she had us laughing and crying, and she did an awesome job. So that was a really beautiful model for me to see what closure could actually look like and how important that was, because then you have your container and your cup refilled to step into the new thing, right? So when it came to the house, then it was like, okay, so little by little, I was honoring the past. And then I took the flowers as they started to brown up. I took them into the garden. And the guidance was, you need to open a portal of the new. So consciously, you need to invite the new energies in now. So this is another big piece of it. So I just pictured all of the roses in a circle with the heads of the flowers in, and I, little bunnykin, sat in the middle, having done the past work. And I just then went into my hocus pocus magic of drawing up the earth energy and the cosmos energy. And I let my body move and shake as I do. And I called in the new. I said, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I'm surrendering myself to this experience, that you will guide me to the most perfect place for me. And we will find the right people for this house, so I can walk away from this house giving it the next gift of the people that are going to honor it as well. So I found out that we had 2 really keen buyers, and I put their initials on 2 pieces of paper. And this comes from family constellations work. And I swooshed them around, so I didn't know which paper was which. And this was my way of tuning into the energy of who is most aligned to be blessed with this home. And I stood on the bits of paper, not knowing who was who, and got very clear visual and body-based experiences. And what you then have to do is trust these messages. And this is a huge part of manifestation, isn't it? Because the mind will jump in, but there has to have been enough experiences where you have learned to trust yourself. Because that's just self-sabotage when we don't allow that and that flow between our higher self and us. It's there all the time. And how many years have we spent denying it? It's a bit heartbreaking, actually. Anyway, so that process, I stood on the papers. One of them I saw, it was a nest, and I saw them looking out this view that I get to see every day, and they were rapt. They were so happy, and they had a little tiny baby in their arms. The other couple, I saw 2 people sitting on the couch looking at their mobile phones. and I saw suitcases at the front door. They just got back from a trip, and the first thing they did was went and sat on the couch and looked at their phone. I thought, no, they're not appreciating what this house is. So in my heart, I was rooting for this couple, and I just knew that they would get it. And sure enough, on bidding day, the two bid against each other, and the couple, who happened to have a 3-week-old baby, were the successful bidders. So that was the next piece of the process for me. Because we create our reality, right? And when we ask to be shown, we will be shown, and we just have to trust it.
Well, there was as you're talking about that, there's a process of your kind of, your will is definitely involved in there, but there's also a great deal of surrender and trust. Yeah. It's not just all about what you want, you know? So, and also you're referring to the messages that come through. I forget the exact language that you use. And this is something that, you know, that many people are not necessarily doing, which is being able to listen to their higher selves and that guidance. Yeah, that's the word you're using, that guidance. And that's a very different quality to thinking. It's a very, very different quality to thinking. And this isn't about thinking about what you want and then going after what you want. It's a very, very different process. It's a very different energy, isn't it? You know? Yeah.
There's two prongs to that. The first is that you have to have developed a craft of being able to tune into yourself to start with.
Right.
And is my guidance visual? Is it auditory? Is there just a feeling of love versus a feeling of contraction that comes over me? So that is a precursor. That is a foundational aspect to manifestation. And the second one is the feeling. So once you've found your channel of guidance, and that comes through nervous system practice and healing and like working with your shit, basically, like going into those places, then it becomes a feeling. And just today I watched a video of one of our colleagues in the group that we're in, talking about the feeling. How is it going to feel when the thing manifests? And somebody commented, that's the bit I get stuck with. I just can't feel what it's going to be like. And my comment to that was, you can't feel what it's going to be like because of all the obstacles in the way of that. So manifestation work requires you to have met all of the obstacles that limit your capacity to receive your guidance, that limit your ability to feel and have that felt sense of this feels right, this doesn't feel right, because it's actually as simple as that. So in that instance of standing on the pieces of paper, when it got to bidding day, the day after the bidding, the wheels fell off a bit because the ones that I'd been rooting for had overstretched themselves financially. And the other couple had the deposit already, and the figure that they were prepared to pay, I was pretty well chuffed with that as well. And I was presented with it could be a bit messy if we go with these guys that you really want. Do you want to just give it to the others? Now, I had that choice. I got goosebumps remembering it. I remember standing in my kitchen going, this is where the rubber hits the road on your manifestation shit, girl. You have to follow that guidance, because when we don't follow the guidance, the universe starts to turn down the dial. That's my lived experience. So I thought, right, there's going to be a little bit of a financial hit with this. And one of my girlfriends had intuited this. She's a kinesiologist, and she'd said, Mel, I tune in and I get this and this. And that was her piece of the puzzle as well, which I welcomed. So when it gets to the challenge that the universe throws at you, you have to stand in the faith. That is the work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my experience with this is that what I've learned over the years to do is to be the observer of the experience of being me, which is not the same as being in the, how can I put it into words? There's a degree of objectivity to my life experience, which is, we could call non-attachment as well, where I'm able to observe everything that's unfolding in my life, observe how I'm responding to that, observe even where my desires are within that, and choose choose not to become totally what's the right word,
enmeshed, sucked in,
particularly when the situations and the feelings are challenging, particularly when they're challenging, but also when they're good as well, because it's very easy to get attached to feeling, when we're feeling good and things are going well, because then, see what happens when we get attached, that attachment creates resistance. It's a little bit of a paradox, but as soon as we get attached to something, we energetically start to almost push it away, because then at a kind of emotional and a feeling level, we start to get into the fear of not having and the absence of. So as you were saying before, you have to kind of, to manifest, you really need to get into the feeling of what it is you wish to manifest feels like. But this is the real kind of, it's a real tricky one, It's like catching something out of the corner of your eyes and you turn your head to look at it and it's gone, And you have to you just have to learn to just keep that in your peripheral vision. And it's a little bit like the same with this. It's like having a clear vision of where it is you would like to be going without being attached to that. And certainly not being attached to how it happens. And that's where the trust, the faith comes in, and your example is beautiful there of how there invariably will be hiccups along the way, which may look like, actually, this isn't gonna work, but then you're called upon to surrender even more and just to have even more faith.
That topic of attachment, I learned a lot of that in my very heady spiritual days. I don't think I've had the chance to tell you about my 14 years with the School for Self-Knowledge at any point in our discussions.
No.
But it was a very esoteric school where they denied emotions existed, and that was a big red flag for me. But that all came to a natural end. But this attachment, like we can feel, it takes practice to notice that you're attached. It doesn't come naturally, right? And I don't know what your journey of learning non-attachment was, but for mine very clearly was, I was only able to see that I was attached when you can create that arm's length. And that's because I'm not so embroiled in it that I think I am it. I can see it as something outside of myself. I am not that. Like, we are so pure and like divine in who we are. I am not anger. I am not fear. I am not worry. So I was always taught, if you can observe it, if you can see it happening, it's not you. And that was a good entry level kind of thing. So I could feel myself go into the overwhelm and see it, and very quickly go, no, I'm not going to do that. Now, the opposite end of the spectrum about what you said about the good stuff, I have a different perspective on that. When we feel the good stuff happening, I don't rest on my laurels and then just dine out on that and open a bottle of champagne. I energetically use that and imbibe that in my whole body, because what we have to do is teach our nervous system what good feels like. So I spend time in that energy, imagining it like rewiring my nervous system, flowing through the nadis, that my blood vessels are carrying the gratitude or the feeling of relief through my body. And I purposefully spend time in it, because we have to acclimate to those feelings. We're so attuned to worry, fear, doubt, all of those things that, and my clients would say this all the time, I don't know, gosh, it feels weird to feel good. Gosh, it feels like something's going to come and take this away from me because I feel so much gratitude or so much peace. So we have to then imbibe, is the word that always comes to me, this outcome of the manifestation, with spending time with it, and let our body get used to that feeling so that we crave it. In the same way we get addicted to fear, people are looking for the next thing to keep them in fear, because then they don't have to face anything about how they really feel. We have to get used to this feeling of the positive outcomes of how powerful we are, or how manifestation actually works, you know. And that light and excitement that I emitted in that video, it's because I remembered it, and I felt like I was home again. This is actually what living is all about. We've been gypped for the last 30 years, you know, like this is what it feels like to be human. It's so good.
No, no, I totally agree with you there. You know, that when we are feeling great and things are going well, that we can ride that energy. It's like surfing, isn't it? You get on top of the wave and you ride it as long. But I think what I was just kind of also wanted to, you know, mention is not to get attached to that, because it will come to an end, you know. And for me, being a master, being a spiritual master, and I'm not saying that I am, but this is what I'm working on. And there are times when I feel like I've achieved that, and there's times when I feel like I'm kind of getting absolutely nowhere with it. You know what I mean? But it's not about not having emotions, not at all. I think some people think that. They think it's like, you know, sitting around chanting Om, being in this kind of completely unresponsive state. No, not at all, you know. And it's extremely important that we really feel our emotions and really embody our emotions. In fact, not doing that is one of the reasons why we become sick. So this is, and I know you agree with this is not what we are saying. So, you know, equally, when the feelings are uncomfortable and painful, to actually, you know, be fully present with those. But there is somewhere within that, there is just some distance between me, the observer, and me that's experiencing that. And to answer your question about my journey to getting to that, it's all about meditation. And this is, for me, why meditation is the single most important practice in one's life, in my life. Because, you know, when I teach meditation and I sit with someone for the very first time, and I will give them that simple instruction to observe the breath, and they'll sit and they'll do that. And then afterwards I'll go, did you observe your breath? And they're like, yeah. So who observed the breath? And they're like, yeah. And then once that light bulb goes on, you know, that's it. You know, that's being the observer, isn't it? You know, and it's not difficult, you know, but
no,
to do. So if you know, I would say to anyone who does listen to this, that is thinking, okay, Mel, Simon, that sounds great, but how do I start? How do I go about it? I would say start with meditation. It's a good place to start. Probably not the only place to start, but a good place to start.
I've just noticed how the light's fading and my picture's getting a bit pixelated, so that's okay, but it's dismal Sydney weather. So the capacity to observe the unpleasant stuff and not get attached to it. So you might say, instead of I feel angry, you just go, oh, there's anger there. Hello, anger.
Yeah.
And by not saying I feel, you're taking away the I component, and you're just presencing, is the word I seem to be using a lot lately, yourself to this feeling of discomfort.
Yeah.
And I always give this practice in most of my videos. You've probably heard it, is to feel the unpleasant thing, but also know that you can feel the opposite at the same time. And we can actually do this. And I suggest, there's a circle on the floor and you stand in it and you feel the uncomfortable emotion and you let yourself process it, because we have to process this stuff because it's just energy that wants to move up and out. But you know that it is a function of your physical body and your history, and it's not who you really are. And then you step aside into this other circle, which is the opposite of that. And we all know what the opposite of that is. And whether you feel the opposite this much, or you can completely surrender into the arms of it, the very fact that you can move between the two, or even within your body, I feel the fear here. Where in your body do you feel safe and okay? Oh, okay, I can scan for that. Oh, like my fingertips feel pretty safe and okay. That is another practical way for people to realize that they can be that, but they can also be this, and have a bit of space between the two.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. The other thing that comes to mind for me, and I think back on some of the when I was really kind of in my healing journey and the kind of workshops that I used to go to and stuff like that, there was often practices of kind of moving and shaking and different ways to allow the body to express and release. Because we talk about emotions. Emotions are just energies, and we interpret those energies, through our consciousness, and we judge them. Okay, that's a good energy. That's a good emotion, that's a bad one. But actually they're just energies that move through, and they will move through. They have to move through. But we can really help those along sometimes. So yeah, like you used anger as an example. And I really like that exercise that you described there, but I would also say really embody and allow that anger to express, because it will be gone in no time. Most times when you do that as well. And then
17 seconds, they say. That's the number I've been given. Like, it will be full tilt for 17 seconds, and then you'll start to feel it abate already.
And then, we referred, didn't we, into one of our previous chats to the Rumi poem of the what's it called? I forgot the name.
Being human is a guest house. The guest house. But it's relevant again, isn't it? Because once those move through you, those lower vibration, let's call them, those more difficult energies, they just make space for the good ones to come in. Don't they? Yeah. And then getting back to our topic of manifestation, then that's the vibration, because I guess, to simplify this, it's all about what is the kind of vibration, the frequency that you are transmitting, because that is what's going to attract back to you your future experiences, It's about alignment. It's about, this is how I want to feel, so I'm going to call that in right now. And I'm going to feel that, and everything that will be attracted to that vibration will come my way. If I'm living in fear and panic that how the bloody hell am I going to sell this house? And God, I don't know where I'm going to go and live next. I've got 2 cats to look after. This is disastrous. Then the universe will keep reinforcing, it is pile of shit, isn't it? So this is going to be really tough. So this is a conscious choice that you have. Now, we all know what feeling good feels like. So you can't tell me, oh, it's really hard for me to figure out how good it's going to feel, because you have to catch those moments, because that is a part of you stepping in that's taking you back into your past, telling you you're either not going to get what you want or you're going to lose what you've already had. To me, that's what fear is. So soon as you catch that, you know, that's the lens through which your past tells you the world is. You have to consciously, and this is the work, it's like meditation, you have to come back to that still point a million times, but that's the work. Yeah. And I knew that my exhilaration at selling this house to the people that I wanted, and then, you know, within 8 days finding the next place I was going to live and having the money to buy that, I knew that I was going to come down off that roller coaster at some point, and the reality of some new emotion would come through. And that makes the heights even more delicious, because you know that the cycles, the waves will come, and there will be something down the track, but it doesn't have as much hold over you, because you have lived evidence that when I choose a different path, this is the outcome. And each time something comes your way where you just retreat back into that really shitty feeling, again, I have the choice about how to deal with this. How can I energize the most perfect outcome? Well, I feel what it's going to feel like on the other side of this, and I welcome that in. And it turns down the dial of the intensity of the uncomfortable feeling as well. You still have to work through the ickiness, but haven't you noticed, Simon, that the length of time that it takes to process your stuff gets shorter and shorter and shorter as the years go by, to the point where, you know, I can work through something in an afternoon, something quite heavy and emotional, and be through on the other side of that. You know, it might have taken me weeks before, but this is the practice that we have we get the choice to participate in, right?
Yeah, definitely. And then that manifestation period gets shorter and shorter. And if I did a video on this a while ago, and I feel that what we experience as time is really the experience between the desire and the manifestation. And as that gets shorter and shorter, then we're actually kind of collapsing time, because everything exists only in the here and now, in this moment. And what we experience as reality is actually disappearing and reappearing. I can't even click my fingers fast enough, you know, however many, exactly, like thousands of times it is in a second. And what that reality manifests as in each of those fractions of a moment is basically a consequence of the observation of the consciousness that's observing it. And that's what we are. We are the consciousness, you know. And the only thing that creates that time is our resistance to the manifestation. So all the things that we've been talking about is how to reduce that resistance, to collapse that time. But I think there's something that we haven't mentioned. I think we didn't mention this in this conversation, which is a really important aspect of this. And this is what a lot of the healing work is about. Is about the subconscious mind and the subconscious belief system. Because if your subconscious belief system is not aligned with where you want to be, there's no way you're ever going to be there. And as you and I know, the subconscious mind is way bigger than the conscious mind. You know, you hear 95%. I think Bruce Lipton talks about it being 95%, doesn't he? You know, and I listen to Bruce Lipton for sure. So if 5% of your mind is like, yeah, I want to be in a beautiful relationship and I want to live a life of abundance, doing what I love doing, having time for myself, blah, blah, all the things that, you know, we all kind of want the same stuff, really. You know, but then the other 95% is going, yeah, but you're not good enough and you can't trust men, you can't trust women, and money doesn't grow on trees. And if you have time for yourself, you're going to be selfish and no one will love you, then you'll end up all on your own, blah, 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 blah. That's the narrative that's going on in the background. Then you can do vision boards forever and sit and chant Om and everything else, and nothing's going to really happen, is it? You know, and this is the work that you and I, you know, we if anyone's listening and, you know, we hear just talking about doing the work, this is the work, this is the healing work that really, really needs to be done through, and there's so many different techniques, and I know you have many that you work with and you offer to your clients, and I do. So what would you say, Mel, for in terms of your experience and what you're able to offer that can really help people to do that work, you know? What would you say?
For me, it's a three-pronged approach, and, you know, my own personal history was that my nervous system was completely dysregulated. So I went down the path of learning nervous system modalities, because for me, that is a lot of subconscious stuff, a lot of buried stuff, patterning in our nervous system that we don't know about. And to me, that's the obstacles. When you talk about the subconscious, there are so many obstacles between us being in that flow state. It's almost like the work is finding and addressing each of those. So for me, it has to have the component of the nervous system. And there's so many ways to do that. I'm a yoga teacher. We do breathing, but the main modality I use is the muscle tremoring, TRE, which is trauma release exercises, tension release exercise, lots of different names, because until your nervous system is on board with making the change, it will continue to arc up, either in that fight flight energy or in that dissociated, I'm just numbed out because this is all too much state. So that is always the first thing I address with my clients. Secondly, the emotional stuff, the emotional clearing. We have to feel safe enough to go to the depths of the discomfort and the things we've never said out loud before. And I hold that container for people to go there through, you know, many different angles, intuitively led, and things that I've learned and literally embodied for myself. That's my number one. I don't teach anything that I have not immersed myself in. I'm not a fan of book learning. I can feel in someone when they're speaking from experience versus intellectual knowledge. So the emotional work, and I can only do this because I've gone there for myself for 10 years, but I don't want everyone else to have to take 15 flipping years to get to this place that we're in now. And I think that's the exciting thing, is we can accelerate. It's exactly what I said in my video I made this morning. Working with someone as opposed to following a whole lot of YouTube videos, you accelerate your healing journey. Because you are learning from someone that's walked the path ahead of you. And then the third aspect is what we've talked about a lot today, which is about energetic work. So I do energy and soul medicine is the modality that we call it. And it's using energy and different aspects of soul that come through as like similar to chakras or energy bodies, light bodies, and teaching people energy mastery. And for me, that is the add-on piece at the end. I want to get to you through your body. I want you to have safety and trust in your body. So we must do the nervous system. Then we can feel comfortable enough to go into those icky, shadowy, emotional places. And now, as I said to you, when I imbibe the energy of gratitude, we have to then work with the energy and create new energetic frameworks within our body and external to us, so that the universe knows how to deal with us, really.
Yeah. So
that's it.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's a lot. You know, that sounds a pretty well-rounded approach there. So, so I guess you're available then, if anyone's listening to this and that's resonating with them and they're serious about their healing journey.
Yeah.
So they can contact you and
and the way I do it at the moment is that we work together for 3 or 6 months and we meet fortnightly. And there's a lot of integration time between the sessions because we go deep. And I have, you know, fairly constant support and access through that time as well. So that by the end of that period of time, you can really feel the things that were holding you down have shifted enormously, and you have a whole new toolkit of things to continue with on your own. Because like you, I want to empower people to go away from the sessions with me and apply this stuff in everyday life so that they can create their own magic and have that circle of influence in their life from that place of change and evolution, you know, and it ripples, right?
I was going to use exactly the same words. It's like just sending out these ripples, isn't it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And all of that work, you can do that online. Yeah.
Well, we got forced to in 2020, didn't we?
Right, exactly.
So yes, I have done most of the clients online over the last couple of years, and I don't find any hindrance with doing it through the computer screen at all. Energy is energy, right?
Exactly. No, amazing. Amazing. Okay, so I think that feels like a good place to leave off because I'm just looking at the time. We've been on over an hour here, and
be done.
yeah. I mean, for me, that was a great conversation, and you know, I really hope for anyone listening that was enlightening.
Yeah, so much fun. Thank you. Thanks again for the enlightening conversations. They light, like these conversations light us up, and we have to bring this light into the world, Simon. Who are we to hold and hide this stuff? Like, this is something that really landed for me a couple of years ago. We can't afford to doubt ourselves and have visibility issues, because when we've tapped into this stuff, who are we to hold it in for ourselves and hoard it?
Yeah.
When we are ready, we have to take it out into the world. So these conversations are a big part of that for me. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as you were saying before, you know, it's not just about the words, it's the energy. And even someone who may watch this tomorrow or a month's time or whenever, the energy is still captured within this recording, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, amazing. Good. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure.
All right. Thank you.